He slid the breadbasket away from me as though I were a stray dog sniffing too near the furniture. "There's only enough for family," he declared. My step-siblings were giggling, stuffing large pieces of lobster into their mouths, dripping butter across the cloth serviettes. My mother averted her gaze, her eyes fixated on the candle flame instead of me. "Don't make this about you," she murmured. That was the precise moment I decided the charade was finished. I did not protest. I did not weep. I rose, walked to the reception desk, and requested to cancel the bill under my name. When the manager seemed hesitant, I motioned toward the table. "Please escort table 7 out," I stated loudly enough for every patron to hear. "They are no longer my invited guests." The ensuing silence was more weighty than the unpaid check they were unable to settle. It hadn't always been that way. When my mother first encountered Robert, he was charming in a rehearsed manner, all soft-spoken compliments and expertly timed smiles. I was 16 then, feeling awkward yet hopeful. He brought us bouquets prepared. Sunday evening meals acted like a man intending to restore what life had damaged. For a period, I truly believed him. He would utter phrases such as, "You're the head of the household now, sport," or "We're a collective right." I wished to believe that held some significance, but gradually he supplanted every element of my life with his own. He relocated us into his residence, disposed of our belongings, made our identities insignificant and his prominent. My mother described it as adapting. I simply called it erasure. The first undeniable fracture appeared on my 19th birthday. He presented me with a solitary envelope. Inside was a $50 gift certificate. His son James received a luxury automobile that very evening. When I glanced at my mom, she just offered a frail smile, her hand resting on his arm like an unsaid apology. After that, I ceased anticipating fairness. By the time I reached 24 years old, I had already moved out paid. From my own apartment developed something independent of him. Yet my mother persistently invited me for evening meals. Family night, she named them. Guilt encased in sentimentality. I attended not for her benefit, but to remind myself what silence costs. That night, the lobster dinner was intended to be a celebration. Robert had recently finalized a major deal, a substantial property transaction. He invited his entire extended family. My name was on the reservation, but I was an afterthought. When the server inquired about the account, Robert leaned back and announced, "Oh, my stepson opened it. He's settling the bill tonight. Thought he'd contribute. Be a genuine part of the family." He phrased it as a jest, but everyone chuckled as if it were accurate. I didn't correct him. Not at that time. I had been making preparations for months regardless. Robert had a proclivity for utilizing other people's credit, employees, friends, even my mother. He would initiate joint ventures under shared names, then covertly redirect earnings to his personal accounts. When things deteriorated, he blamed everyone else. What he was unaware of was that I had begun employment at the same financial institution that managed his corporate accounts. Different branch, identical system. I became aware of things. Patterns, transfers that didn't harmonize, debts that weren't rightfully his to incur. I didn't misappropriate funds from him. I merely supplied the figures to individuals who cared. Auditors, investigators, the Internal Revenue Service. Then I patiently waited. So that evening, as they indulged, Robert's mobile device vibrated 3 times. Calls from his finance manager, his legal representative, and ultimately, his business associate. He muted each one, feigning indifference. But I observed the brief tremor in his eyes. The identical tremor I had experienced in mine years prior. The moment you comprehend the contest is no longer yours to direct. When I proceeded to the manager's counter and terminated the bill, it was not about the money. It was solely about authority. The manager returned to the dining party. "I regret to inform you, sir," he stated courteously. "Your payment has been declined." Robert frowned. Attempted again. The server complied twice, the same outcome. Then I spoke with clarity and composure. I instructed them to cease trying. "You are no longer my guests." James stared at me. My mother's lips parted, but no sound emerged. Robert looked from me to the server, realizing the public shame was not a coincidence. When they departed, agitated, silent, with the entire establishment watching, I returned to my seat and requested a cup of coffee. The sort of minor, quiet triumph that tastes superior to any form of vengeance. 2 days later, the official investigation commenced. Accounts were frozen, assets confiscated. His reputation dismantled one headline at a time. My mother contacted me, her voice trembling, asking if I possessed any knowledge. I simply responded, "He finally obtained what he earned." There was an extended pause, then a soft, "You sound exactly like him." Perhaps I did, but at least I employed the same intensity to terminate cruelty, not sustain it. Occasionally, I re-examine that dinner in my thoughts. The candles light the laughter the way my mother refused to meet my eyes. For years, I remained silent at that dining table, watching them consume while I hungered for validation. Now I grasp something Robert never understood. Family isn't determined by blood. It is defined by choice. And the instant he informed me there wasn't enough for me, he chose to starve first.